I believe it's impacted
500 million people across the world. I mean, this is over 42 years. From a very young age, 5 or 6, I was always curious about who God was.
There's an interesting observation that I've seen in today's world wherein meditation and breathwork is sort of looked as a luxury biohacking tool, something that is for the elite or the athletes or performers or CEOs.
I became a born-again Christian, an evangelical, Pentecostal to apostolic. Very extreme Christianity. Then I explored Buddhism, Judaism, Islam, satanic art. All that I explored, and I could never find the answer. And that's when I started.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Wiser Together. Thank you for joining us today. We truly appreciate your support. I'm honored to have Tim as our guest today on the podcast. Tim is a teacher with Art of Living and does a lot of other things as well that I'm really excited to dive deeper into. He'll tell us what Art of Living is, obviously, and his role in Art of Living. They've recently received a grant as well from a local council here in Sydney to carry out workshops based on healing, resilience, and empowerment for the community. So we'll dive deeper into all of those things. Thank you for coming, Tim.
Really Thank you for having me, Pamit.
Appreciate your time.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. So let's start with perhaps if somebody doesn't know what Art of Living is, maybe you could briefly tell us what
Sure.
Art of Living is.
Art of Living is one of the world's largest volunteer organizations in the world. We have been providing breath and meditation workshops for over 42 years now around the world. Our mission is to create a violence-free society and to strengthen the individual as well. So we have a flagship program that we teach called the Art of Happiness, or the Part 1 program. And that teaches our flagship technique called the Sudarshan Kriya. And that's a rhythmic technique in breathing that allows you to reset yourself, to come back to that state where we feel completely present and show up as our best version wherever we are.
I think most people, it's actually one of the most common practice, like you mentioned, within Art of Living as well. And to share a few other words about that, I believe it's impacted about
500 million people across the world. I mean, this is over 42 years.
Yes.
We're in 180 countries.
Wow.
Our faculty size is now over 35,000 teachers around the world. Yeah. And these are teachers that teaches the Sudarshan Kriya. We're all volunteers. What drives us as volunteers is the space of service to the community, because we got so much out of the course itself when we were doing the course that we feel that if everyone could experience it, then not only would they become more centered as an individual and be able to do whatever they want to do in a better frame of mind, but that would then cascade into change within the community and within society itself.
That's beautiful. You're a teacher yourself with Art of Living?
Yes, I've been a teacher since 2002.
And how has that experience been? 22 years is a long time.
22 years is a long time. And, you know, when you become a teacher of the Art of Living, it's not so much as teaching others. In fact, now in retrospect, it's more about finding out more about yourself, a commitment to do that. And until you're more clear about yourself, then you can start sharing what that means.
Are you saying going on that external journey on the outside of empowering and teaching others is also parallelly a journey of self-reflection for you? And
both. So whenever you're teaching an Art of Living course, you see yourself in everyone. Right? because the questions you've asked, the experience that you've going through, reminds you of what you have gone through, or it is a reflection of what you're thinking right now.
Yes.
It's very unique, and that is the growth part. Where you realize, well, I'm not one in a million, but I'm one of many.
It's very interesting. Yeah. When did your spiritual journey start? Perhaps
my
out of living
spiritual
King?
journey.
Yeah.
My goodness.
And was that the tipping point where sort of got you to start on that journey?
From a very young age, I would say age 5 or 6, I was always curious about who God was.
Right. Did you grow up in a certain religion?
I grew up in Episcopalian Anglican, which is high church.
Okay.
So that is the Church of England.
Right.
And where there's a lot of theatre,
Yeah.
if you would say, in the service and things like that.
Okay.
So that's what I grew up in. It's very traditional. But the quest of finding out more about myself happened around when I was 14 or 15 in school. And that's when I started exploring. And it was exploring everything and anything that was a belief system. What drove me was the no that I would encounter. It's sort of when you are not allowed to question the authority of God.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Then how will you know how profound God is?
Yeah.
Are you getting what I'm saying?
That's interesting. Yeah.
And if God is all powerful, he cannot be fearful of being questioned. But in fact, what I learned from that is that people who uphold these values are fearful because they haven't gone deep in looking at themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that, because that is part of our journey. Yeah. So whenever I wanted to question the nature of God, the authority of God, the will of God, I was either told it was blasphemous or sacrilegious.
Yes.
So you're shut down. And that drove me to explore quite a lot of belief systems and alternative belief systems, to the point where I went through, I became a born-again Christian,
Okay.
an evangelical, Pentecostal, Pentecostal to apostolic. So very extreme Christianity.
Right.
So it's the fire and brimstone things.
Right.
And then
That's what you practice today?
No, that's not what I practiced. That's what I went through.
All right. Yeah.
Then I explored Buddhism, Judaism, Islam. Satanic art, I explored that as well. All that I explored, and I could never find the answer. And that's when I started working. And then I dived into the world and enjoyed the world. And after enjoying the world, after a while, you always fall back to what you grew up in.
Yes.
So I fell back into Episcopalian Anglicanism as a way of process.
Yes.
Something to do, but you weren't in it.
Yeah.
And then finally I ended up in the art of living, and that has supported me to where I am now.
Wow. And what do you practice anything today?
I am comfortable in whatever worship is happening.
Okay.
So I'm equally comfortable in a mosque as I am in a synagogue, as I am in a temple, as I am in a monastery.
Just having faith?
I think we all have faith, right? Otherwise we wouldn't be able to get up in the morning.
Yes, it just depends on what the faith is in.
Yeah. I wouldn't say, because faith is too limiting in, it's not limiting, it railroads you into a specific practice whenever you say faith.
Yes.
Right? That's the unfortunate
It's not
thing.
boundless.
Yeah, it's not boundless. But I have faith in the greater divinity that encapsulates all belief systems.
Yes, yeah.
You know.
That's interesting.
and that is the path I'm on now. Although I still go to different forms of worship, just to connect with the different manifestation of the one thing.
Very interesting. Okay, so with Art of Living, as you mentioned, they're in 180 countries, and the kind of impact they've had over the 42 years is immeasurable. Uh, in addition to, is it safe to say they empower you through meditation and breath work and self-inquiry and self-reflection and those things?
We teach mainly a breathing technique called the Sudarshan Kriya. On top of that,
Is that at the core of it?
that is the core of it. That is you could say that is the basics of it
Yes,
all.
foundation.
The foundation.
Right.
Because it's once you understand the breath, then you can use that to leverage off on everything else. And what the art of living does is that it allows you to realize that there is more and that you can give more.
Yeah.
So the purpose is really to equip and empower an individual to be confident in contributing back to their community in the way they are comfortable in doing. So it's not like you have to give up things to come on the art of living courses. No, it's a self-awareness course. It's a management course of yourself.
Yeah.
But it allows you to then be so present with a presence in whatever you're doing, rather than your mind being elsewhere. So you can keep on doing whatever you're doing, but at that time you're now more 100% into it, rather than hedging your bets all the time.
There's an interesting observation that I've seen in today's world wherein meditation and breath work is sort of looked as a luxury biohacking tool, or something that is for the elite or the athletes or performers or CEOs, corporate leaders, sort of as a hack and a luxury. How much agree or disagree do you with
It's
that
good
statement?
marketing.
It's good marketing.
It's good marketing. 20, 30 years ago, who would have talked about breath work?
Nobody, right?
Who would have talked about yoga? Who would have talked about meditation or mindfulness? It was people who were not educated, people who were not well-traveled, people who were religious, people who were traditionalists, people who were superstitious.
As perceived, like
as perceived
yeah,
in those days.
in those days, yeah.
Right? It was something that your grandparents did. Right? But now through good marketing, it's seen as an elite. It's a bit like quinoa.
Yeah.
Quinoa was food for the Native American, South American
Yeah.
tribes, right? And now it's a
Superfood.
It's a superfood.
Yeah,
Are you getting what I'm saying?
Marketing.
It's marketing. It's also the quest to live forever. Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All the breathing techniques, all these things out there right now is what? To give you a health, elongate your life. But have we actually understood the process of the body? Right?
I think in that process, like, you are elongating it, but like you're still losing on in the present moment.
Are you elongating it, or you're trying to delay the inevitable?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The body functions, the nature of it is so simple. It gets fertilized, it gets birthed, it grows, it matures, right? After it matures, it declines and deteriorates, dies, and decays. That is the nature of the body. And we're trying to fight against it.
Prolongs it.
There's nothing wrong with wanting to live your best life.
Yeah.
But if you think living your best life is prolonging the state of your body,
is it like using that are you using that practice to improve your present or your future? Is that this?
Well, it depends on where your mind is. Yeah. If you're using the practice for the future, then you've lost the plot.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're getting what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know,
That's where maybe some people might get it wrong.
yeah. There's nothing wrong with that, because that is a journey process of elimination.
Yeah.
You know, and the best learning is usually the mistakes you make. You know, it's a bit like if you've ever made pancakes or crepes, right?
Yeah.
When you're first making it, it's messy.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But after a while, you don't even need to think about it. You know the exact time to flip it. Unless you have the new ones, which is slightly, right? But that is what, you know, in the Vedic tradition, there is a phrase, a Sanskrit phrase, which is called puna punaha, again and again. And that's so applicable to life. Practice again and again. Only through frustration or boredom will innovation happen. Look at the late Steve Jobs. It was out of frustration and boredom that Apple was born.
Yes. Boredom, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And frustration for what's not out there.
I guess, yeah. Yeah.
So unless you do that again and again, you will not feel bored or frustrated. Until you've gone again and again, you realize there must be a better way. You're either frustrated or bored. And that is the spiritual path. That's what triggers you into the spiritual path. Either boredom for life or frustration about life.
Teaches no duality as well, right?
Duality is always there.
Yeah. But like your awareness of it, or your learning of it in that sort of path.
It's the acceptance of it. Yeah. Because the awareness sometimes doesn't make change.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Acceptance.
Yeah. It's the acceptance and to embrace it.
Yeah.
And that's tough.
Yes.
Yeah. But you need the duality in order to make choices. It's either this or that. That's duality. That's a choice. And not making choice, it's either this or that. It's already duality. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We make it too conceptual sometimes. When I've stopped reading now because after a while, the next great idea is just that the next great uncovering of what was so obvious if someone meditated. It sounds very pompous, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think we have time now to delay the truth of it, especially where the world is right now.
Yeah.
I
guess as the power of the capitalistic world and their power to sort of keep you focused on things that bring you stress, or always trying to, with algorithms and these things, as our attention, as we have more and more attention disorder, the need for these practices is simultaneously increasing as well. And I think, like, for breathwork and meditation, these tools are something that should be for the common people. It's if you have
it is for the common people.
But with it's not as mainstream right now with how it's marketed and the perceptions around it.
Yeah.
So
breathing and meditation is readily available.
Yeah, but the perception around it, especially for young generation, is that it's you have to be a monk, or it's a luxury, or it's
and that's the importance of empowering the youth.
Yes.
Yeah. I was young once too.
Yeah.
And the purpose of youth is to be brave and to explore.
Exploration and curiosity, I think, is two biggest things.
That is the biggest thing about youth.
But our world today is suppressing that.
It's suppressing that because,
that very thing,
Yeah, but we have access to things. You getting what I'm saying?
Certainly do. There's two sides to it. There is more and more access, certainly, from maybe your times. But how we're brainwashed and taught in schools and the things we learn, that muscle wherein you would question things and you'd be curious about things has become weaker, I think, over time.
Yeah, that I'll agree with that. That is critical thinking.
Yes.
And critical thinking is so important because what is critical thinking? able to see both sides of the story objectively,
Objectively,
and then making your own choice.
Yes.
Right. So there's no right or wrong out there. It just depends on which side of life you end up on.
Yeah.
It's not the system, right? Because if you can't make it work in one system and you go to another system, it's not going to work either. If you don't know how to row one canoe and you get out of that canoe and go to another canoe to paddle, is it going to work?
No.
No. So again, when we start blaming systems or that the outside, you're not focusing on yourself. And we do get into that space when we feel disempowered, disenfranchised. And when you feel disenfranchised and disentangled with the community, then you don't feel any connection.
Yeah.
When you don't feel any connection, you feel the isolation.
Yes.
When you feel the isolation, there's the separation. And separation is always misery and painful.
Wow, interesting. You talked about empowerment. Sorry, you were saying?
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to attend one of Tim's sessions. We're going to talk about it shortly now, that he's conducting over the next few months. And one thing, a lot of things I took away from it. One of the things, as we were mentioned now, is you said empowerment is a choice.
Yes.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
Empowerment is a choice. It's a choice is what you either do it or you don't.
Knowing you have a choice.
Yeah, we all have a choice.
Yes.
Even by thinking we don't have a choice, you've already made a choice. Are you getting what I'm saying? Yeah? It's just an intellectual mind game.
Yes.
And whatever can be proved can also be disproved.
Oh, yes.
Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That is the intellect. And whatever can be disproved or proved creates argument and misunderstandings. Are you getting what I'm saying? But how are we measured? We're measured by how smart we are.
Yeah.
But not how we connect. Are you getting what I'm saying? So when you work from that of only the intellect, then it opens up for manipulation. Because when the intellect talks to the heart, it can manipulate. But when the heart talks to the intellect, it's misunderstood. So people in power talks from the head to the youth who is driven by passion, the heart. So there's always miscommunication and misunderstanding.
This is very deep. A lot of people might. I also probably have to listen to this again to understand it. When you said that, it's also interesting, and I want to lay out my observations there. When we say something, we might have a different understanding around it, and you never know what buttons and pushes in the other person and how they perceive it and how they pass it on. Sort of the understanding I got from it is that why empowerment is knowing you have a choice is because once the person is in that situation wherein they know always before reacting to something or being emotional or letting yourself go through those emotions of misery or stress or anger or jealousy or envy. In that moment, if you know you have a choice to choose a different emotion and react or respond consciously rather than react impulsively to the situation, that choice is liberation in itself,
Yeah, the choice is not about choosing another emotion.
Or
it's impossible.
Yeah.
Once that emotion is coming out, it is coming out. The more you try to suppress it, the more you're trying to plug a volcano. So the more you're trying to cool the ocean. But in fact, the awareness in it is that being aware of the emotions coming up and tempering it. Right?
So, I mean, not acting.
You can act on it, but instead of slapping someone, you give them a dressing down. Are you getting what I'm saying?
You give them
a dressing down or telling down. So the difference, what is empowerment? Empowerment is when you are able to make a choice, but you're only able to make a choice when your energy levels are high. Are you getting what I'm saying?
A good choice, informed.
Yes, that's a positive choice, a choice that can make a change.
Yes.
But if your energy is low, you're not going to make the correct choice because your judgments are cloudy, your emotions are high, and you're
you
not
make the
thinking
worst
straight.
choice, perhaps.
You make a worse choice. It's still a choice. Right? So is it easier to clear your emotions or improve your energy levels?
I guess improve your energy level.
Nah, that's breathing. Are you getting what I'm saying? We keep thinking about changing our behavior, changing our habits, being more authentic in the things we still say, without addressing the source of all this,
which is your breath,
which is one of the energy levels.
Because
because the thought that drives your habits and behaviors, that thought is an impulse of energy and intelligence.
Every thought is an impulse of energy and intelligence. Oh, wow.
Right? That intelligence cannot function without energy. That is the breath. If there's no breath in your body, there's no more intelligence in that body.
Yeah.
So what is this intelligence? That is you, what you're made up of. You're made up of a body, very basic. Body then gives rise to the breath, gives value to the breath. With the breath, then you have the faculty of perception that gives value to the mind. Perception is always waiting for the next moment to happen. That is the mind. The mind then gives value to the intellect. Because after I perceive things or experience things, then I know what I like, I don't like. After the intellect, I have the memory to remind me that I will remember this as my choice next time. And from the collection of memory, you get your ego. That is just the identity. And the one that is observing all this is the self. That is what you're made up of. It's so fascinating. It's such a beautiful framework. And this is what Art of Living does, is allow you to experience all 7 levels of your existence.
Wow. So it starts with the body, the breath, mind, intellect, memory, ego, and self.
Now, what runs across all these 7 levels?
Is it breath? Wow. Actually,
Yeah. And every emotion has a corresponding pattern of breath. But how do we tell people to manage their emotions? Don't cry.
Yeah. Suppress it.
Suppress it.
For it to come out someday.
It will come out further.
It's like a volcano, right?
That's right. Yeah. But with every pattern of emotion, there's a pattern of breath. You're angry, it's shallow. I mean, sad, it's shallow. When you're angry, it's short and panting. When you're happy, it's a very rhythmic breathing. So because we cannot influence our emotions from the thought level, the easiest is to use the breath.
So to summarize, you're saying that whenever every emotion has
a corresponding pattern
of breathing.
Yes.
And although we might not be able to change our emotions through our thoughts, by sort of backtracking,
reverse
engineering, perhaps, through our breath, we can change our emotions.
And actors use this as an acting method.
Ah, interesting.
To bring up that emotion.
Yeah.
Are you getting what I'm saying? So the breath is so powerful. It's so easy to manipulate in order to get that sense of presence in yourself again.
Yeah. Just through something as simple as breathing.
As simple as breathing. Yeah. That is. We've been doing this for over 42 years.
Yeah.
And the technique itself is a timeless technique. You're talking about, when we ever say ancient techniques, immediately when people think of ancient, they think it's irrelevant.
Irrelevant now,
yeah. But there's maybe a better choice of word is to say it's timeless.
Timeless, yeah. I agree.
So in old civilizations, the breath work has always been there. It's nothing new.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But it just wasn't taught because people didn't value it.
That's beautiful. But it has been going on since the
5,000
5,000
years,
years. Yeah, it's
maybe
mentioned in the
10,000.
Vedas as well,
It's
right?
in the Vedas.
Yeah,
The origin of all breathwork is from the Vedas.
Yeah. And we're just basically taking it from them, like it's right.
Well, whether you call it taking or revitalizing it,
Revitalizing,
it's
perhaps.
revitalizing it
Yes.
because the Veda was for the world.
Yeah. There's so many concepts within Veda that are like
Vedas is only 4 that survived, right?
yeah, for them.
But the interpretation of it is different.
That's the Umanishads.
The Upanishads or that you can go on for many sessions on this one.
Yeah, I know.
Not that I'm an expert on this.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
So you talk about the breath. You wanna tell us about the recent grant that
Yeah.
Artisan
So Sydney in Australia, there was a terrible incident in Bondi Westfield, which is a major shopping centre in the eastern part of Sydney.
Yeah.
A rather, you know, it's in a better part of Sydney suburbs.
It is, yeah.
So there was an unfortunate accident. There was a random stabbing where I think 6 people were killed or died as a result. And so the council, the Willaro Council, decided to take action and offer a grant to charitable organizations that could provide something that will create a sense of community and also look at mental health as well.
Yeah.
So when I saw that, I thought, well, why not? This is what we've been doing. It's part of our DNA as Art of Living. So we applied for it and we got it. The good thing was it validated that we are the best in class.
Yeah.
So the other 2 there was only 3 recipients. The other 2 is being Lifeline Bondi, which is part of Lifeline Australia. I think it's one of the longest running suicide prevention hotlines in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is Bondi Beach Cottage, which is a charity that is as long as ours, that provides services to women who are in vulnerable relationships, in domestic violence, and obviously the families as well. So you have suicide prevention, you have people who are trying to escape violence, and then you have us, which is really bringing techniques and practices that allows you to boost your everyday mental health and well-being. That is what we're doing through the grant. So we're using the grant to really offset direct costs, venues.
Yeah.
It's just venue costs,
Yeah.
because we're all volunteers again.
Yes. There's so much you guys can do. And as I mentioned before, I had the opportunity to be a part of it. It was last week. It was absolutely wonderful. Although I've been meditating, I've been involved in this industry for a few years now. There were so many eye-opening moments for me as well. And it was only the first sort of introductory session. I can't imagine how beneficial the next ones are going to be. And I can't wait to be a part of it. How can people, I'm going to link everything in the show notes. It's for the Sydney community. If you're in Sydney, it's for free, absolutely. Open for all ages, from all backgrounds, to everyone to just be a part of it, learn more about yourself.
Yeah. So
take up a few techniques.
Yeah. So we focus on 3 things. One is healing, the other one is on resilience, and the other one is on empowerment. So we have 6 workshops still to come. So next 2 would be on healing, followed by 2 on resilience, and then 2 on empowerment. Yes. For each one, we'll explore how we use the breath and meditation to find that space of healing, to find that space of resilience, to find that space of empowerment.
That's amazing. You're doing some amazing work.
Thank you.
I'm certainly grateful to share this energy with you and learn from you so much. There's so many things I definitely want to dive deeper into.
Go ask
perhaps
ahead.
over coffee. But yeah, I think what you're doing and the impact you're creating. I tell this to everybody that I really look up to and am inspired by, and perhaps I tell it to myself as well. In some ways, that we can never really quantify the impact we create, and energy is contagious, right? When you empower, let's say, and you have empowered me, how I pass it on to two more people and they pass it on to 4, 8, how it grows and amplifies is beyond the comprehension of a human mind. So
that's a real beautiful way of looking at what you're doing as well. And that's the thing about service or community service is, if service is easy, then it's not service. Yeah. So
what does that mean? Like,
when service is easy, it's sort of like, it's something that's not pushing your boundaries. Okay. So the purpose of service is for you to understand yourself, and you can't understand yourself until you push your own boundaries.
You're serving others, but it's basically a service to yourself in a way,
Yes,
right?
it is. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It very much is.
Yeah. And you can't serve others by serving yourself.
Exactly. Because if you serve others and you're actually serving yourself directly, then
sustainable.
It's not sustainable. So it is a bit of a mind game,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So service is when you just need to know that I need to drop my own expectations about things and just do it, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very tricky thing, and I don't think there's enough volunteers now in whatever it is around the world. We need more volunteers, whether it's for Art of Living or for whatever organization. Generally, people need to get out there and serve. It can be very small, but it just needs to be done.
Yeah, and in any way you could just helping someone or being kind, passing on a smile.
Correct.
On a small
you got it. You got it.
Yeah.
You got it. And you know why that's important?
Because it's the small things that if everybody did even that little bit, it would amount to be so much.
Because it triggers self-worth and respect.
Yes.
It triggers self-worth for the other person because he or she recognizes,
acknowledge them. Yeah.
I'm acknowledged, and for yourself, you're respecting that individual, irrespective of their background. You getting what I'm saying?
That's very interesting.
Yeah. So next time you're in the supermarket, you just smile like an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
that's what I try and do. Yeah. And again, like when you talk about volunteer, this and that, people think of it like, oh, you need to do so much more. But just passing on something as small as passing on a smile or just helping someone, being kind, holding the door for them, or saying thank you, sorry, just those things can go such a long way. You never know how it's going to impact the next person and the next person.
It doesn't have to be big. A lot of stuff that stops us is that we always think it has to be big, those ta-da moments.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can't have the ta-da moment until you've prepared yourself for it.
Thank you so much, Tim. Really appreciate it. I'm going to link everything in the show notes. If you are in Sydney, please come and be a part of it. Tim has great energy in person. I could just see it from the first moment when he saw it as well. And yeah, in terms of service, do whatever you can in your own ways. And I think just doing it shows the other person to do it as well.
Yes.
Which, energy.
What you said, one triggers the other.
Yes. In a good way and bad way.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So never underestimate your influence in the world.
Yeah. We'll end with that beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so
for
much,
your
Tim.
time. Yeah.
Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next time.